What is up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Gym Math, and I will be your host, Joey Huber, for today's lesson. So today we are going to be covering profit and loss and how you can predictably understand where you're going to be when the month starts and where you need to make your sales to hit your profit goals. Okay, so I have a whiteboard in front of me. And I'm going to be writing things down in 3 different columns to make it super easy to understand. Number 1 is going to be the revenue column. Number 2 is going to be the expense column. And number 3 is going to be the profit column. And you can do this exact thing every single month, either on a whiteboard, on a spreadsheet. And what I'm going to recommend is that you share this with your team so your team knows exactly what they need to do for you to hit your goals as a company, and they'll understand what you're going to be giving them as an incentive or a bonus for hitting their part of the goals. This is a super valuable exercise that goes a long way. So let's get started. The first thing that we want to do is we need to write down the revenue that we are bringing in already before the month begins at your gym. So I'm going to title the first category revenue. Okay, pretty simple. And what we want to do is we want to break this up into some subcategories to make it a little bit easier. So the first one I'm going to write down is recurring, okay? Now let's say we have $30,000 in recurring revenue that's already scheduled to come in for that month. Let's write that down. Okay, $30,000. Okay, then how else do you guys sell? What do you sell? Do you sell challenges? Do you sell new members? Do you sell renewals? Do you sell? I'm going to break it down into what we sell just to give you an example. Number 1 would be trainer sales. So I've done a couple of videos on this already, but my staff will bring in sales that have nothing to do with new client acquisition. So whether it's renewals, whether it's referrals, all sorts of ways that I incentivize them to bring in new contracts, money, cash dollars into the business. I'm going to leave that blank for goals so far. Okay, the next one I will write down is products. Okay, do you sell physical products? You should sell physical products because it doesn't matter what they are, whether they are, fitness bands, boxing gloves, heart rate monitors for your MyZone, in-body scans, supplements, whatever. You should sell physical products because it is a very easy way for you to add in profit margins without virtually any fulfillment, and your customers are going to buy them anyways. So I put products down. Now we are not going to add to the goal quite yet. And the final way that I'm going to write down is new sales, new contracts. Okay, so it's not recurring. It's not trainer sales, it's not products. This is what my sales team is going to bring in. My sales manager, my ops manager working leads, this is what they're going to do. Whether we are running ads, whether we are doing a member event or a challenge, this is all new contracts, new money coming in that's not preset to come in. So we do 7-day trials, we do all sorts of things to bring in new contracts. So at the bottom, I'm gonna write total. Okay, and this is what we have so far. This is our revenue category. Okay, now we're gonna move over to our expense category. I'm gonna write that in red. Okay, so we have fixed expenses and variable expenses. So fixed expenses are things that are always gonna stay the same, whether it is rent, whether it is payroll would be a variable expense, things like that. We're going to write those down and break them up into 2 separate categories here. So I'm going to write down at the top fixed, and I'm going to put the amounts. So let's say rent is $7,500, and you have variables down here, and let's just put we'll add a couple utilities that can change month to month. Then we have, let's say, credit card processing, right? That always changes depending on what you processed the previous month. Okay, we can put down payroll. That always changes. We can put down software. Software can get expensive. So you guys get it. I'm putting down the things that change under variables, and I'm putting down the stuff that stays exactly the same month over month over month as fixed. Okay, so that is going to be our expense category. And the point here is to show yourself or your staff to show that total and draw the comparison between your revenue and your expenses. That's gonna get us into the product category. But before we move that, I'm going to put down basically my estimations of what I'm going to pay in my variables, okay? Estimate versus actual. Okay, pretty cool. So we're getting pretty far here. All right, we have our revenue, we have our expenses. Okay, you can see that I put down some expenses. I'm gonna fill these all in with numbers once we get over to profit. But I have my estimated amounts that I'm going to pay for my utilities, my credit cards, my payroll, my software, just so I can plan. But at the end of the month, I'm gonna put in my actual. That way I know how much profit I'm making. So let's move to the last category. Okay. All right. So the last category, guys, profit, okay? We'll do this in green, cash dollars. Okay, pretty simple. Here we have our revenue, our expenses, and our profit. So the first thing that we want to write under profit is going to be total revenue. Total revenue. Okay. Then we want to put in total expenses. Now this is something we do with all of our gyms as an exercise to make sure that we are all on the same page. Profit, and then finally our goal profit. There we go. We are getting really close here. So these are the three categories that we really want to focus on: revenue, expenses, profit. So to get this thing going, the first thing we want to do is write down our expenses. I'm going to make up some numbers, but you'll see why when we get through that part. So let's just say utilities, the estimated amount is $1,000 and we spent $1,200. Maybe they left the doors open. That's something you can talk to your staff about. Do not waste water, electricity, any of that stuff, especially when they have a bonus tied to the profit. Next, credit card. Let's say it is $700 and you spent $650 on processing. Not bad. Payroll. Let's say payroll, you estimated it was at $20,000 and you paid $19,000. Pretty awesome. Software, let's say $700 and you just signed up with a new software that is an all-in-one solution, and now it's down to $150, okay? So our estimated amount that we were gonna pay for expenses under variables was $4,400, okay? And our actual amount that we paid for expenses, I'm sorry, $4,420 plus 21, 14, $23,000, guys. And then the actual amount that we ended up spending on our expenses was $22,500. Okay, so that is going to be added to your fixed expense, which is rent. That's the only one I have for now, but that's how you can see we are at $29,000. 75, yep. $29,000, okay? So here we have total expenses of $29,000. $1,000. We have filled out our total expenses, which is just a summary of what is the detail here. And under fixed, you'll probably have more than rent, okay? And under variables, you'll probably have more than these. Like if you want to throw an event, if you need to buy trainer clothing, whatever it may be, anything that you spend money on, you can budget it for and put it over here. Expense category. So you can see 29,000 gets moved over here. Let's take a look at our revenue. So far we have our recurring revenue at $30,000, but what if, let's say $10,000 of that fails? Maybe there's a big COVID crisis or something like that where you're not collecting all of that money that was scheduled to come in. So I'm gonna subtract $10,000, okay? So the actual is going to be $20,000 of that recurring money we are going to collect, okay? So this is the part where we set goals, guys. Okay, so our profit goal, we wanna have it at 20% profit, okay? So I'm gonna write that down, 20% profit. Okay, so if we know that our expenses are $30,000, we understand that we're gonna spend $30,000 this month, okay? To get to 20% profit, we need to bring in a certain amount of revenue, okay? So if we brought in, let's say, $40,000, that's a $10,000 profit, which leaves us at a 25% profit margin, okay? So I'm gonna write down the actual amount, which would be $8,000. I did that in my head, but you can use a calculator if you'd like to. So we know that our goal profit margin is $8,000, okay? So we're spending 29. So what does our revenue need to be? Well, it needs to be at 37,000. Okay. Total revenue, and this is our goal. Our goal here is to get to $37,000, okay? Because that would be a 20% profit margin, giving you $8,000 worth of cash left over, okay? So how do we get to this $8,000 profit when we only have $20,000 in recurring revenue coming in? This is where we set goals for your teams, okay? So your first team of trainer, or your first team is the trainers, and what I would say is, all right guys, we are $8,000 short on our profit goal. We only have $20,000 guaranteed coming in. Our goal is $37,000. That's a $17,000 gap, right? So how are we gonna make that gap up? Well, I'm gonna tell my staff, I'm gonna tell my trainers, look guys, I need $8,000 worth of sales from you. Okay, can you bring in $8,000 worth of sales? And that's gonna be their goal, okay? Products, maybe I'm gonna set a goal of $1,000. Now we're at 9. New contracts, okay? I'm gonna have to use new contracts to make up the difference between my recurring and my trainers and product sales. So if I hit my $20,000 in recurring, if my trainers bring in $8,000, now I'm at 28. If I can sell $1,000 worth of products, now I'm at 29. I still have to get to 37, which means that my sales team, they need to do $8,000, okay? Of new contracts, new money, and we teach you exactly how to do that. So the total for our goals, right, would be 17,000. Now it's starting to make sense here, okay? Let's walk through this. We know we have $29,000 worth of expenses because we just estimated it and we just added everything up. So we know that that's where we are going to end up by the end of the month. We also know that we have $20,000 worth of recurring revenue coming up because we lost 10,000 of our 30 due to people canceling or freezing, okay? And we also know that we have these profit goals on this side, okay? And our profit goal is 20% here. Okay, so that means based on our expenses that are already in the system, we need to bring in $37,000 worth of revenue to hit a 20% profit margin. And what does that mean? It means $8,000 in cash left over. Okay, so we got some revenue to make up here, but I'm gonna have a meeting with my team on the first of the month, and I'm gonna walk through this entire thing with them, because if they hit their trainer goal, I'm going to give them bonuses and incentives, right? If my guys hit their $8,000 in new contract goal, I'm gonna give them bonuses and incentives. If we can sell $1,000 worth of products, my whole team, they get bonuses and incentives. And the goal is to incentivize them so their goals are completely aligned with the business's goals. And now we've really defined what the business's goals are. It's $17,000, right? So if we as a team can bring in $17,000, then we know 8 of it is going to be profit, because we went through every single expense that we had and we added it up. Now, things change throughout the month, which is why you want this on a spreadsheet or a whiteboard so you can add in the changes. Let's say somebody signs up and they get added to your recurring revenue. Well, you can change this number. Maybe they sign up on the 5th, so you write down how much money they put down under the new contracts, and then the rest of it's gonna show up in your recurring revenue. And you just update it, and you tell the team where you stand every single week you have a meeting, or more frequently than that, so everybody knows how close you are to hitting your goals, and they're rallying behind each other to make this goal happen, this 17,000. Not to mention, if you have an operations team or an assistant manager, they are gonna help you reduce these expenses. Why? Because you're giving them a goal for profit. Maybe a good thing you can do is give them a profit share, right? So you give them an incentive, your leaders say, look, I'm gonna give you a 10% profit share of what we hit at the end of each month in the form of a bonus. So if I bring in $8,000 as a business owner, I have no problem giving my general manager 800 of that, because I still keep 7,200 of it. And they are gonna be so motivated to make sure these teams are doing their job, to make sure that you're not spending ridiculous money, and to make sure that you know exactly what you need, so you're not surprised at the 3 days from the end of the month being like, oh my God, we're gonna lose all this money this month. No, you're tracking it every single day, right? So put down your goals. Put down your goals. Maybe you have a goal of $32,000 in recurring and you only want $5,000 to fail. You don't want any more than that to fail. So your net would be $27,000, right? And here's the thing. And this is a big part of what we do in FitBiz. We get your recurring revenue to match your expenses as quickly as we can, right? Let me say that again. We get your recurring revenue, so what you start off with every month already covers your expenses, which means trainer sales, product sales, new contracts, that's all profit. And there's no pressure on the team to have to do these big contracts all the time, because it's very close to you making profit already, right? It's all icing on the cake. So I think this is an extremely valuable exercise, and it's so simple to do. All you need is 3 categories: revenue, expense, and profit. Write down how much you have guaranteed, write down where you can get extra money from and what the goals are, right? Because at the end of the month, you'll write down the actual. Let's say the trainers actually brought in $8,100 and you actually sold $1,200 and you actually brought in $10,000 worth of new contracts. Okay, so now you're at 18,1 plus 12 is 19,3. Okay, so now you're at 19,300 in actual new sales. Okay, you add that to your 20,000, right? And your actual revenue is 39,500. That's your actual after the month is completely done. So your profit would end up being, in this case, 10,500. Okay, because your team exceeded their goals. And why would they do that? Because they get a little slice of this 10,500 every single month. You can pick the amount, the chunk that you want to give them, and I would recommend that you give this only to your leaders, people that actually can contribute and drive these numbers. Now, I'm not saying that you wouldn't give it to your staff, your trainers, but we have something different for them. Okay, so this is the high level how to predictably make profit every single month. And it starts off with you having a meeting with your team and going over these numbers every single month, right? And if your team can rally and if they can push and if you guys update this thing every single time there's a new expense, every single time there's a new sale, update this thing, update it, right? So you can see your numbers switch. In FitBiz, we do this on an Excel sheet. So when you update one thing, it automatically updates everything else and you can see exactly how much profit you're making as the month goes on. It's very simple and your whole team has access to that spreadsheet, okay? You can use a whiteboard too. A whiteboard is fine. So get these 3 categories down. Starting off your recurring revenue just by generating a report and seeing how much money you're scheduled to bring in over the next 30 days. Write down your categories that you have. Write down how much expenses you know you're going to have to spend so you can start giving goals to these extra categories where there's not money yet. Okay? Then you'll know exactly what your profit is. Start off with a small goal. Maybe your goal is 10% profit margin, right? Just so your team feels fired up. But ultimately you want to get to 20%. So if you have $30,000 in expenses, how much do you need to bring in to get to 20% profit margin? Well, you'll have the math. Okay, so anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It is a little tactical when it comes to math, but it's exactly how you do it. Okay, now if you want to see how I motivate my trainers to bring in this $8,100, it's right here, guys. It's on the other side. I write down every single trainer's name, okay? And I write down things like trial members and how many of them they have and how many they have to convert, right? Sales, profit or paid in full or monthly amount, okay? So how many sales dollar-wise did they bring in, each staff member, so we can see the total. Standards, this is something different, but I want my team to follow our high standards. They all start off with 100. As they do stupid things, they lose points, okay? Team tasks, I need them to bring in referrals. I need testimonials, so I give them incentives. So I add up all of these categories, and if they got to 100%, I give them a bonus, okay? Because guess what? If they all add up to 100%, that is gonna far exceed this $8,100. If these guys all hit 100%, we're talking $18,000, and I've had so many months like that, okay? So we track it, and this is something that's in my break room where my staff is, and they can see exactly where they stand for the month and how close they are to 100%. And once they hit 100%, they get bonuses. Do we have active challengers or active trial members? Absolutely. So what's their name? When did they finish their trial? Who's coaching them? Were they converted? Right? Or clients that are coming up for renewal. What if you sold Mrs. Jones on a 6-month program, right? So what's her name? When is her contract going to expire? When does she need to renew by? And who is she coached with? All of this is filled out. Why? So it's so easy for them to hit this $8,000 because they will not be paying attention to all the finer details. But your ops manager or yourself can, and you can use this as a tool for motivation. This is how you delegate. Once you have all of this stuff down, there's not much left for the owner to do, and every single person on your team is contributing to hitting these numbers, right? It has been a very long time since we were not profitable, and this is exactly how we do it. We're always able to rally because we know what our expenses are going to be, and together as a team, we know that we can bring in the revenue to hit this profit goal over here. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope this is something you can implement right away. This is something that comes exclusive with FitBiz, but either way, you can use this exercise and apply some of the teachings, and I can guarantee you'll have a good ROI from doing it at your gym. So I hope you guys liked that. It was a little bit long and tactical, but money math is very, very important when it comes to your brick and mortar gym. I'm Joey. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.